Hey guys, welcome back to Daily Coding. In this video, we are starting a brand new series on one of the most important but often confusing components in Android, the service. So if you have ever wondered how Android apps keeps working in the background even when you switch screens or kill the app, this is the video for you. Alright, first things first. So what is a service in Android? Well, a service is a component that runs in the background to perform long-running tasks without a user interface. For example, when you start playing music and then move to a different screen or app, the music continues without interruption, right? That's thanks to a service handling the playback in the background. Activities are tied to the UI. Once you leave or destroy an activity, it's gone. But services are designed to keep working even when your app is not visible. Think of it like a background worker that never needs a screen. There are mainly two types of services in Android: started service and bound service. We'll cover both types in this series with hands-on examples. Let's now understand the lifecycle of a service in Android. Not just the method names, but what really happens and when. Here's a simplified view of the lifecycle. The first method that gets called is onCreate. This is where the system sets up the service, kind of like constructor of an activity. But remember, this method is called only once, when the service is created for the first time. You usually initialize things here, like background thread, location clients, API instances, or notification channels if you are using a foreground service. Next, the system calls onStartCommand. This is the most important method. It's where our actual background task starts. For example, downloading a file, playing music, syncing data, all of this logic goes here. This method runs on the main thread. So if your task takes time, you should start a separate thread so the app doesn't freeze. Also, this method returns an integer like start sticky, start not sticky, or start redeliver. These values tell Android what to do if your service gets killed unexpectedly. Once your service is started, it enters the running state. It stays active even the user leaves the app. And that's the power of a background service. The service continues running until you manually stop it using stop service method, or it calls stop self from inside. And if the system kills your service due to low memory or battery, Android may restart it based on the return value from onStartCommand. And then when the service is stopped, the system calls onDestroy. This is your cleanup phase. You should stop any background threads, unregistered listeners, and clean up heavy resources. If you forget to clean up here, your app could leak memory or drain battery unnecessarily. Here's something many developers miss. If you call start service multiple times, Android does not create a new instance of the service. onStartCommand gets called once, but onCreate is not repeated. And that's how a started service works. But what if your app needs to talk to the service? For example, get download progress or send commands. That's when we use a bound service. Let's break down the full life cycle of a bound service, from creation to disconnection. Just like with started services, onCreate is the first method that's called when the service is created. Use it to set up any shared resources like thread, database references, or media players. Next comes onBind, and this is where the magic of bound service happens. This method is called when a client like your activity binds to the service using bind service method. It returns an object, usually a custom binder, which the client can use to call methods inside the service directly. Once the binding is successful, your activity or fragment can call methods on the service, like it's a local object. This gives you tight real-time communication without using broadcasts or messengers. When the client unbinds, either by calling onBind service or when the activity is destroyed, the system calls on onBind in your service. This is your chance to pause tasks, stop timers, or prepare for cleanup. If you want to allow rewinding later, return true. Otherwise, return false to call on rewind next time. Now here's something important. Bound services are automatically destroyed when there are no more clients bound and you haven't started the service with start service method. So if your service is only bound, Android will call onDestroy as soon as the last client disconnects. That's perfect for short-lived tasks where the service only needs to exist while the UI is active. And that's the full life cycle of a bound service in Android. Understanding this flow is key to writing clean, efficient, and memory-safe apps, especially when your UI needs to stay in sync with background logic. So to summarize, a service equal to background worker that has no UI, ideal for long-running tasks, and that is two types, started and bound, which is controlled by lifecycle methods like onCreate, onStartCommand, and onDestroy. In the next video, we will create our first started service where we will write actual code and trigger it from a button click. So don't miss that. If you found this video helpful, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe for the full Android services series, and leave a comment if you have any doubts so far. Thank you so much for watching, guys. See you soon in the next one.